Welcome, thoughtful listener, builder of your future, and someone who knows that effort alone is no longer enough. You are here because a part of you understands that working harder is not the same as moving forward, and that clarity, not exhaustion, is what truly creates progress. This audiobook, Don't Work Hard, Work Smart, presented by Assets Investor, is an invitation to rethink the way you use your time, energy, and focus. It is not about avoiding work, and it is not about shortcuts. It is about learning how results are actually created in the real world through direction, leverage, and intentional choices. As you listen, you will explore why constant business often hides stagnation, how smart thinking multiplies effort, and what it means to design a life where work supports growth instead of consuming it. This is a calm, grounded journey meant for those who are ready to replace endless hustle with clarity, strategy, and sustainable momentum. Allow yourself to listen without rushing. Let each idea settle. This experience was created by Assets Investor to help you step out of automatic effort and into deliberate progress. So your work begins to serve your life, not control it. This is where smarter thinking begins and where effort finally starts to pay off. Chapter 1. The day hard work stopped paying off, there is a moment that arrives quietly, without announcement. When effort and outcomes stop moving in the same direction, you are doing everything you were told would work. You arrive early. You stay late. You say yes when others say no. You push through fatigue and ignore doubt. Yet instead of progress, you feel stuck. Not dramatically stuck, just suspended in place, working harder while moving nowhere. At first, this realization feels uncomfortable. You don't question the system immediately. You question yourself. You assume you are missing something. You tell yourself to be more disciplined, more committed, more relentless. You double down on effort, believing that persistence will eventually be rewarded the way it once was. But something has changed, and deep down you can sense it. This moment often shows up disguised as exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix. You rest, but the weight returns the moment you start working again. Tasks feel heavier than they used to. Achievements feel smaller. Even success feels strangely empty. You are not lazy and you are not ungrateful. You are simply encountering the limits of effort without direction. Hard work was once enough because it separated those who acted from those who waited. But when effort becomes common, it loses its power. In a world where everyone is busy, being busy no longer sets you apart. The environment shifts, but many people keep using the same strategy. Assuming more effort will produce different results. This is where frustration builds. You watch others move ahead with what seems like less effort. You don't see them working longer hours or pushing harder than you. In fact, sometimes it looks like they are doing less. This observation can create resentment if you misunderstand it. But if you look closely, what you are seeing is not laziness, it is leverage. The day hard work stops paying off is not the day effort becomes useless. It is the day effort demands intelligence. It is the point where working blindly becomes expensive. Every hour spent without clarity begins to drain energy instead of building momentum. Many people reach this moment in their careers. They realize that staying late no longer brings recognition. Promotions go to those who solve problems, not those who simply endure them. Others reach it in business, when longer days stop producing growth. They work harder on systems that no longer scale. Some reach it in personal goals, where discipline alone cannot overcome poor strategy. What makes this moment difficult is emotional attachment. Hard work is tied to identity. It feels moral. It feels responsible. Letting go of the belief that effort alone guarantees progress can feel like betrayal of your upbringing, your values, your sacrifices. But this is not about abandoning hard work. It is about redefining it. True progress requires friction in the right direction. Effort applied to the wrong place creates fatigue. Effort applied strategically creates acceleration. The difference is not in how much you work, but in where and why. The realization often arrives during repetition. You notice you are solving the same problems again and again. You are busy maintaining instead of building. You are reacting instead of designing. Work becomes a cycle instead of a path. This is when effort turns into survival rather than progress. At this stage, many people feel guilt for questioning effort itself. They worry that wanting an easier path means they are avoiding responsibility. But working smart is not about ease. It is about effectiveness. It is about respecting your time and energy enough to use them where they matter most. This moment is also the beginning of clarity. Once you see that effort alone is insufficient, you begin asking better questions. Instead of asking how much more you can do, you ask what actually moves the needle. Instead of asking how long you should work, you ask what deserves your focus. These questions change everything. Hard work stops paying off when it is disconnected from thinking. Action without reflection leads to repetition. Reflection without action leads to stagnation. Progress lives where the two meet. When you combine effort with intention, work regains its power. The discomfort you feel at this stage is not a sign of failure. It is a signal of evolution. You are outgrowing a strategy that once served you. Growth often feels like confusion before it feels like clarity. This is normal. Many people ignore this signal and push harder, hoping brute force will solve a strategic problem. Others pause and reassess. The ones who pause begin to see opportunities others miss. They notice patterns. They identify leverage points. They understand that progress is not linear and that smarter paths exist. The day hard work stopped paying off is not a loss. It is an upgrade. It marks the transition from endurance to intelligence, from motion to momentum, from effort to effectiveness. If you have reached this moment, it means you are ready for a different way of thinking. One where effort still matters, but only when guided by clarity. One where your energy is treated as a resource, not something to be depleted. One where progress is designed, not chased. This chapter is not asking you to work less. It is asking you to work with purpose. Because when hard work is paired with smart thinking, it does not just pay off, it compounds. Chapter 2: Why effort alone keeps you stuck in the same place. Effort feels honest. It feels measurable. You can see it, track it, and point to it at the end of the day. You can say, I worked hard today, and feel justified in that statement. But effort has a limitation that most people don't recognize until they've been stuck for a long time. Effort measures how much you are doing, not whether you are moving forward. This is where many lives quietly stall. People become extremely good at putting in effort, yet remain in the same position year after year. They mistake motion for progress. They confuse repetition with growth. And because effort is socially praised, no one questions it. Not even themselves. Effort alone keeps you stuck because it focuses on activity rather than direction. You can walk all day, but if you walk in circles, distance does not matter. The body gets tired, but the location stays the same. In life, effort without direction works the same way. You invest time and energy, but without a clear aim, you simply reinforce the same outcomes. One of the most common traps is believing that consistency automatically leads to improvement. Consistency is powerful, but only when it is applied to the right actions. When it is applied to ineffective methods, it locks you into place. You become consistent at maintaining the problem instead of solving it. Effort also creates a false sense of control. When you are working hard, it feels like you are doing something meaningful, even if nothing changes. This feeling can be comforting. It protects you from the discomfort of questioning your approach. If you stay busy, you don't have to ask whether you are aiming in the right direction. Many people overwork because effort allows them to avoid responsibility for outcomes. If things don't work out, they can say they tried. Effort becomes a shield. It replaces accountability with exhaustion. But progress does not respond to how tired you are. It responds to how aligned your actions are with results. Another reason effort keeps people stuck is that it scales poorly. There is a limit to how much time and energy one person can give. When your strategy depends entirely on effort, growth hits a ceiling quickly. You can only work so many hours. You can only push so hard. Once you reach that limit, effort no longer creates movement, it creates strain. Effort also encourages reactive behavior. When you rely on effort, you respond to whatever is in front of you. You fix immediate problems. You handle urgent tasks. You stay occupied. But reactivity rarely leads to advancement. It keeps you maintaining what exists instead of building what could exist. People who stay stuck often believe they need to do more of the same thing. They add hours instead of changing approach. They repeat familiar actions because those actions feel safe. Trying something new introduces uncertainty, and uncertainty feels riskier than exhaustion. So they choose effort over strategy, even when effort no longer works. There is also an emotional attachment to effort. For many, effort is tied to self-worth. Being hardworking becomes part of identity. Questioning effort feels like questioning character. But this attachment can become a prison. You protect the identity of being hardworking at the cost of being effective. Effort alone also ignores leverage. Leverage is what allows small actions to create large results. Without leverage, progress is linear at best. With leverage, progress compounds. Effort focuses on adding more force. Leverage focuses on applying force in the right place. Most breakthroughs happen not because someone worked harder, but because they worked differently. Staying stuck often means repeating tasks that produce familiar outcomes. You get the same feedback, the same results, the same limitations. This repetition feels stable, even if it is unsatisfying. Effort keeps you inside this loop because it reinforces familiarity. Strategy requires stepping outside the loop, which feels uncomfortable. Effort also delays learning. When you are constantly busy, you have no space to reflect. Reflection is where insight forms. Insight is where improvement begins. Without reflection, effort becomes mechanical. You do without understanding. You act without adjusting. You stay active, but not adaptive. Breaking free from this pattern requires a shift in focus. You stop asking, "How much more can I do?" and start asking, "What needs to change?" You examine outcomes instead of hours. You look at patterns instead of effort. This shift feels risky because it removes the comfort of business. When effort alone keeps you stuck, the solution is not to abandon effort. It is to place effort under direction. Effort becomes powerful when it follows clarity. Clarity tells you where to apply energy. Energy then creates movement. People who escape stagnation learn to pause before pushing. They evaluate before acting. They design before executing. This does not make them lazy. It makes them effective. They understand that effort is a tool, not a strategy. This chapter is not an argument against hard work. It is an argument against blind work. Blind effort builds fatigue. Directed effort builds progress. The difference determines whether years of work lead to advancement or repetition. Effort alone keeps you stuck because it keeps you busy enough to avoid change. Once you see this clearly, effort stops being your default solution and starts becoming something you apply with intention. And that is when movement finally begins. Chapter 30. The invisible difference between busy and effective. From the outside, busy and effective often look the same. Both involve full schedules, constant motion, and long days. But internally they are worlds apart. One drains you without direction, the other moves you forward with purpose. The difference is invisible, yet it determines whether your effort compounds or disappears. Business is reactive. It responds to whatever appears next. Messages, meetings, requests, and small fires fill the day. You move from task to task without pause, believing that motion equals progress. At the end of the day, you are exhausted, but unsure what actually changed. Effectiveness, on the other hand, is deliberate. It chooses actions based on impact, not urgency. Busy people often feel needed. Their presence solves immediate problems. This creates a sense of importance that can be addictive. But effectiveness is quieter. It does not seek constant validation. It seeks outcomes. Effective people may look less occupied, yet their actions create visible movement over time. The key difference lies in intention. Business fills time. Effectiveness shapes results. Busy work focuses on activity. Effective work focuses on leverage. One values speed, the other values direction. When direction is missing, speed only takes you in circles. Many people remain busy because it feels safe. Being busy protects you from hard questions. As long as you are moving, you don't have to ask whether you are moving the right way. Business masks stagnation. It gives the illusion of productivity while quietly preserving the status quo. Effectiveness requires choice. Choice requires clarity, and clarity requires saying no. This is where many people struggle. Saying no to tasks, meetings, or opportunities feels risky. It can create discomfort. Business avoids this discomfort by saying yes to everything. Effectiveness accepts temporary discomfort to create long-term progress. Another invisible difference is energy. Busy work consumes energy evenly across many low-impact tasks. Effective work concentrates energy on a few high-impact actions. This concentration creates momentum. Momentum reduces effort over time. Business never reaches momentum because attention is constantly fragmented. Busy people often confuse responsiveness with value. They answer quickly. They attend everything. They stay available. But availability is not the same as contribution. Contribution comes from depth, not speed. Depth requires protected focus, something business actively destroys. Effectiveness also changes how success is measured. Busy people measure success by how full their day was. Effective people measure success by what moved forward. This shift in measurement alters behavior. When outcomes matter more than activity, choices become sharper. Business thrives on urgency. Effectiveness thrives on importance. Urgency demands immediate action. Importance demands thoughtful action. Most meaningful progress is not urgent. It requires patience, planning, and sustained attention. Business ignores this because urgency feels productive. There is also a psychological comfort in business. It keeps you occupied enough to avoid reflection. Reflection can reveal misalignment. Misalignment can demand change. Business delays that confrontation. Effectiveness invites it. The invisible difference shows up over time. Busy people feel constantly behind, no matter how much they do. Effective people feel steady, even when working less. One lives in reaction. The other lives in intention. Shifting from busy to effective begins with awareness. You notice which tasks actually create change and which simply maintain activity. You observe where your time goes and what it returns. You start questioning urgency instead of obeying it. This shift does not require doing less immediately. It requires doing differently. You begin by identifying the few actions that produce disproportionate results. You protect time for those actions. Everything else becomes secondary. Effectiveness also requires patience. Results may not be immediate. Busy work provides instant satisfaction. Effective work often pays later. This delay is what keeps many people stuck in business. They choose immediate comfort over delayed progress. The invisible difference between busy and effective is not about intelligence or talent. It is about intention. It is about deciding that your time and energy deserve respect. When that decision is made, work changes. You stop measuring days by exhaustion and start measuring them by impact. You stop filling time and start shaping outcomes. And in that shift, effort finally begins to matter. Busy is loud, effective is quiet. But quiet progress always outlasts noise. Chapter 4. How smart thinking multiplies every hour you work. There is a fundamental difference between working longer and working smarter, and that difference begins in the mind before it ever shows up in action. Smart thinking does not replace effort. It gives effort direction. It turns hours into leverage and transforms work from consumption into creation. Most people begin their workdays by reacting. They open messages, respond to requests, and handle whatever appears first. This approach feels responsible, but it places the mind in a defensive position. You are responding to demands instead of shaping outcomes. Smart thinking reverses this order. It pauses before acting. It asks what actually deserves attention before attention is given. An hour spent without thinking often disappears. An hour spent with clarity compounds. The difference is not speed, but alignment. When your actions are aligned with outcomes, each hour builds on the previous one. When they are not, every hour resets progress. Smart thinking multiplies effort by reducing waste. Waste shows up as unnecessary repetition, unclear priorities, and decisions made without context. Many people repeat tasks simply because they are familiar, not because they are effective. Smart thinking questions familiarity. It asks whether the action still serves a purpose or merely preserves comfort. One of the most powerful forms of smart thinking is sequencing. Doing the right thing at the wrong time can reduce its impact. Doing the right thing at the right time amplifies it. Smart thinkers understand that order matters. They prioritize decisions that unlock future progress before handling tasks that only maintain the present. This approach often feels slower at first. Thinking does not produce immediate visible output. It can feel unproductive, especially in cultures that celebrate constant motion. But thinking creates clarity, and clarity accelerates execution. Once direction is clear, action becomes faster, cleaner, and more effective. Smart thinking also shifts focus from effort to leverage. Leverage is the ability to create larger outcomes with the same or less input. It comes from systems, tools, and decisions that scale. Instead of asking how to work harder, smart thinkers ask how to remove friction, simplify processes, and concentrate impact. Another way smart thinking multiplies hours is by reducing decision fatigue. When decisions are made in advance, what matters, what does not, what gets priority, mental energy is preserved for execution. Constant decision-making drains focus and weakens performance. Smart thinking builds structure so effort can flow without resistance. Reflection is another multiplier. Many people work continuously without stopping to assess what is working and what is not. Without reflection, mistakes repeat and inefficiencies persist. Smart thinkers build feedback into their process. They adjust based on results, not assumptions. This adjustment compounds learning over time. Smart thinking also creates emotional stability. When you know why you are doing something and how it connects to a larger outcome, effort feels purposeful. Purpose sustains energy. Without it, even small tasks feel heavy. With it, effort feels lighter, even when the work is demanding. The multiplier effect becomes visible over time. While others burn hours maintaining activity, smart thinkers use fewer hours to create movement. This does not mean they are working less. It means their work is cleaner. Fewer steps lead to stronger results. This approach also protects against burnout. Burnout often comes from repeated effort without progress. Smart thinking ensures that effort produces feedback. Feedback creates momentum. Momentum sustains motivation without force. Learning to think smartly requires patience and humility. You must be willing to admit that effort alone is insufficient. You must allow yourself to slow down long enough to see the full picture. This pause is not weakness, it is strategy. Smart thinking multiplies every hour you work because it honors the value of attention. Attention is limited. When directed intentionally, it becomes powerful. When scattered, it becomes expensive. This chapter is about reclaiming control over how your time is used. When you think before you act, your hours stop disappearing. They begin to stack. And when hours stack in the right direction, progress accelerates naturally. Effort creates motion. Smart thinking creates momentum. When the two work together, every hour stops being a cost and starts becoming an investment. Chapter 5. Escaping the trap of endless hustle. The trap of endless hustle does not feel like a trap at first. It feels like ambition. It feels like commitment. It feels like doing what is necessary to get ahead. You stay busy, you stay available, and you stay moving. From the outside, it looks like progress. From the inside, it slowly becomes exhaustion without direction. Hustle becomes a trap when movement replaces meaning. You wake up already tired, not because the work is hard, but because it never truly ends. There is always another task, another deadline, another demand waiting. The day finishes, but the pressure does not. Rest feels guilty. Pauses feel irresponsible. Slowing down feels like falling behind. This is how the trap tightens. Hustle convinces you that stopping equals failure. It tells you that constant effort is proof of worth. Over time, your identity becomes tied to how much you endure rather than what you create. You stop asking whether the work matters and start measuring success by how busy you are. Endless hustle thrives on urgency. Everything feels important. Everything feels immediate. When everything is urgent, nothing receives depth. You move fast, but your thinking stays shallow. Decisions are rushed. Priorities blur. You react instead of design. Hustle keeps you occupied enough to avoid confronting whether you are building anything meaningful. Many people stay trapped because hustle delivers short-term rewards. You receive praise for working late. You feel needed. You feel productive. These rewards are subtle but powerful. They reinforce the behavior even as the long-term cost grows. Energy drains. Focus weakens. Creativity disappears. What once felt driven begins to feel forced. The trap deepens when you confuse effort with progress. You tell yourself that exhaustion means you are doing something right. But exhaustion without results is not proof of commitment. It is proof of misalignment. Hustle without direction turns effort into friction. Escaping this trap begins with awareness. You notice that no amount of pushing creates relief. You recognize that the finish line keeps moving. You realize that if you continue this way, the cost will be your health, your clarity, or your sense of purpose. This realization is uncomfortable because it challenges a belief you may have relied on for years. Letting go of endless hustle does not mean becoming passive. It means becoming intentional. You stop glorifying being busy and start valuing being effective. You give yourself permission to pause without guilt, not to avoid work, but to see it clearly. One of the hardest shifts is learning to tolerate stillness. Hustle fills silence with activity. Stillness forces reflection. Reflection can reveal uncomfortable truths about wasted effort, misdirected goals, or unexamined choices. Many people avoid stillness because it demands honesty. But honesty is where freedom begins. Escaping hustle also requires redefining success. Success is not how much you sacrifice. It is how much progress your effort creates. When success is defined by results instead of endurance, behavior changes. You begin asking different questions. What deserves my energy? What can be simplified? What can be removed? Boundaries become essential. Hustle thrives in environments without limits. You learn to protect your focus. You reduce unnecessary commitments. You stop reacting to everything that asks for your attention. These boundaries feel uncomfortable at first, but they create space. And space is where clarity lives. As you step out of endless hustle, something surprising happens. Work becomes lighter. Even when it is demanding, your mind feels clearer. Decisions improve. Effort begins to feel purposeful again. You are no longer running to keep up. You are moving to build. This shift does not happen overnight. The habit of hustle is deeply ingrained. You may feel the urge to return to old patterns, especially during uncertainty. But each time you choose intention over impulse, the trap loosens its grip. Escaping the trap of endless hustle is not about doing less forever. It is about doing what matters without burning yourself in the process. It is about understanding that sustainable progress requires clarity, not chaos. When hustle no longer controls your pace, you regain ownership of your work. You move with direction instead of desperation, and in that freedom, effort finally begins to serve you rather than consume you. Chapter 6I, Learning to Leverage Time, Energy, and Focus. Most people believe time is their biggest limitation. They say there are not enough hours in the day, but time is only part of the equation. The real constraint is how time, energy, and focus interact. When these three are misaligned, even long days produce little progress. When they are aligned, even limited time becomes powerful. Time is fixed. Everyone gets the same amount. Energy is variable. Focus is selective. Smart work begins when you stop treating these as separate problems and start managing them as a system. Effort alone cannot solve a system problem. Leverage can. Many people spend time generously and energy carelessly. They push through low energy states, forcing productivity when their mind is scattered and their body is depleted. This creates friction. Tasks take longer. Mistakes increase. Progress slows. The problem is not discipline, it is misuse of resources. Leverage starts with understanding energy. Energy is not constant throughout the day. It rises and falls in predictable patterns. There are moments when your thinking is sharp and moments when it is dull. Smart workers pay attention to these patterns. They match demanding tasks with high energy periods and routine tasks with low energy periods. This simple alignment can double effectiveness without adding hours. Focus is the most fragile resource. It is also the most valuable. When focus is intact, complex problems become manageable. When focus is fragmented, even simple tasks feel overwhelming. Many people lose focus not because they lack willpower, but because they allow constant interruption. Messages, notifications, and reactive demands fracture attention into pieces too small to create depth. Learning leverage means protecting focus deliberately. This does not require isolation from the world. It requires intention. You decide when to be available and when to be immersed. You stop treating every request as equally important. You recognize that uninterrupted focus creates results that scattered effort never will. Time leverage also comes from sequencing. Not all tasks are equal, and not all tasks should be done first. Some actions unlock progress for many others. These are leverage points. When you identify and act on them early, the rest of the work becomes easier. When you ignore them, everything feels heavy. Many people work in the wrong order. They handle small, urgent tasks first and postpone important ones. This feels productive but creates long-term stagnation. Leverage flips this approach. It prioritizes actions that reduce future effort. It invests time now to save time later. Another form of leverage is elimination. You cannot leverage what you refuse to remove. Many people carry tasks, commitments, and habits that no longer serve them. These drains consume energy silently. Removing them creates immediate capacity. Leverage is not always about adding tools or systems. Sometimes it is about subtraction. Energy leverage also involves recovery. Rest is not the opposite of work. It is part of the system. Without recovery, energy quality declines. Focus weakens, effort becomes expensive. Smart workers schedule recovery intentionally. They do not wait until exhaustion forces it. This allows them to sustain intensity without burning out. Learning leverage also changes how you measure effort. Instead of asking how long something took, you ask what it produced. You stop equating hours with value. You begin valuing clarity, momentum, and impact. This shift reshapes behavior naturally. When time, energy, and focus align, work feels different. You are not fighting yourself. You are not forcing concentration. You move with less resistance. Even difficult tasks feel manageable because resources are applied correctly. This alignment does not require perfection. Some days will still feel scattered. Some periods will still be demanding. Leverage is not about control. It is about awareness. You notice when energy is low and adjust. You notice when focus is broken and protect it. You notice when time is being spent without return and redesign. Learning to leverage these resources is a skill. It develops through observation and adjustment, not rigid rules. The more you practice, the more intuitive it becomes. You begin to feel when something is misaligned before frustration builds. This chapter is about reclaiming power from limitation. Time will always be finite. Energy will always fluctuate. Focus will always require protection. But when you learn to leverage them together, progress stops feeling exhausting, work becomes cleaner, effort becomes lighter. Results arrive faster, not because you rushed, but because you aligned. And once alignment becomes your default, leverage replaces struggle as the primary driver of progress. Chapter 7, the shift from doing more to doing what matters. There comes a point where adding more effort no longer creates progress. You increase your workload, expand your responsibilities, and fill every available hour, yet the results remain unchanged. This is the moment when doing more stops being useful and doing what matters becomes essential. Doing more feels productive because it is measurable. You can count tasks, hours, and output. You can see your calendar fill and your to-do list shrink. But productivity without purpose is deceptive. It creates movement without meaning and effort without impact. Over time, this creates fatigue, not fulfillment. The shift begins with recognizing that not all work is equal. A small number of actions create most results. The rest maintain the appearance of productivity. When you treat all tasks as equally important, you dilute your energy across low-impact actions and wonder why progress feels slow. Many people resist this realization because it forces choice. Choosing what matters means leaving some things undone. It means disappointing expectations. It means accepting that some activity must be sacrificed for focus. This discomfort keeps people stuck in overactivity. Doing what matters requires clarity. You must identify the few outcomes that truly move your life forward. This is not about perfection. It is about relevance. What work creates lasting change? What actions reduce future effort instead of increasing it? Once clarity appears, priorities change. You stop responding to everything. You begin protecting time for high-impact work. This protection often looks like absence. Fewer meetings, fewer messages, more silence. This silence is not emptiness, it is space for depth. Doing more often feels safer because it avoids evaluation. As long as you are busy, you don't have to measure impact. Doing what matters removes that comfort. It forces accountability. You can no longer hide behind activity. Results become visible. This shift also changes how you experience effort. Effort applied to meaningful work feels heavier initially because it demands focus. But over time, it becomes energizing. You see progress. Momentum builds. Work begins to feel like investment rather than consumption. Many people fear that reducing activity will make them less valuable. In reality, value increases with relevance. People who consistently produce meaningful outcomes are trusted more, not less. Their work carries weight because it creates movement. Doing what matters also requires letting go of perfection. High-impact work is rarely polished in its early stages. It evolves through iteration. When you focus on what matters, you accept imperfect action in service of progress. This flexibility accelerates growth. The shift from doing more to doing what matters also changes self-talk. You stop judging yourself by how much you did and start evaluating how aligned you were. This reduces internal pressure. You are no longer trying to prove worth through exhaustion. Over time, this shift simplifies life. Fewer priorities mean fewer conflicts. Fewer commitments mean deeper engagement. Energy is no longer spread thin. It is concentrated where it counts. This does not mean life becomes easy. Meaningful work is still demanding. The difference is that the demand feels justified. You understand why the effort matters. That understanding sustains discipline without force. The shift is not a one-time decision. It is a practice. Each day presents opportunities to choose volume or value. Most days, the pull toward doing more will return. But each time you choose what matters, the habit strengthens. This chapter invites you to stop equating progress with accumulation. More tasks, more hours, more pressure. None of these guarantee movement. Progress comes from focus, not excess. When you make this shift, work changes character. It becomes quieter, deeper, more deliberate. And in that deliberate space, results begin to grow without the constant strain of doing more. Doing what matters is not about limitation. It is about alignment, and alignment is what turns effort into progress. Chapter 8. Why strategic choices outperform long hours. Long hours have a way of convincing you that progress is happening. You stay late. You start early. You remain available when others disconnect. From the outside, it looks like commitment. From the inside, it often feels like survival. Yet time and again, the people who move ahead are not the ones who worked the longest. They are the ones who chose more strategically. Strategic choices shift the game because they operate upstream. Long hours address symptoms. Strategy addresses causes. When you work longer, you are trying to push harder against resistance. When you work strategically, you are redesigning the path so resistance decreases on its own. Many people rely on long hours because they feel controllable. You can always add more time. You can always push yourself further. Strategy, on the other hand, requires thinking before acting. It demands patience, clarity, and the willingness to delay action until direction is clear. This feels risky in a culture that rewards immediacy. Long hours often come from reacting. You respond to requests, deadlines, and problems as they arise. Strategy comes from anticipation. It asks what will matter tomorrow, not just what demands attention today. Anticipation reduces urgency. Urgency creates chaos. Chaos consumes hours without producing leverage. Strategic choices also protect energy. Long hours assume energy is unlimited. It is not. When energy declines, decision quality declines with it. Mistakes increase. Focus scatters. Strategy preserves energy by narrowing where it is spent. It recognizes that energy applied to the right decision can replace dozens of hours of effort. One strategic decision can eliminate the need for repeated work. Choosing the right system removes ongoing friction. Choosing the right priority prevents wasted motion. Choosing the right timing amplifies impact. Long hours can never compete with this kind of leverage because they only increase input, not efficiency. People who default to long hours often postpone strategy. They tell themselves they will think later, once things slow down. Things rarely slow down on their own. Strategy must be chosen. It requires stepping back when everything urges you to push forward. That pause feels uncomfortable, but it is where advantage forms. Strategic choices also involve saying no early. Long hours often result from saying yes too often. Every yes creates future obligations. Strategy evaluates those obligations before they exist. It filters opportunities instead of reacting to them. This prevents overload before it begins. Another reason strategy outperforms long hours is adaptability. Long hours lock you into execution mode. Strategy allows adjustment. When conditions change, strategic thinkers pivot quickly because they are not exhausted or overcommitted. They have margin. Margin creates options. Long hours create the illusion of control. You feel productive because you are active. Strategy creates real control by shaping outcomes. You are no longer chasing work, you are directing it. This shift reduces stress even when responsibility increases. Strategic choices also improve consistency. Long hours are difficult to sustain. They depend on stamina and sacrifice. Strategy depends on clarity. Clarity endures. It allows progress to continue even when motivation fluctuates or circumstances change. This does not mean strategic thinkers never work long hours. They do, but selectively. Their long hours are applied to high-impact moments, not daily maintenance. Effort becomes intentional rather than habitual. This distinction protects momentum. Choosing strategy over long hours requires trust. Trust that thinking is productive. Trust that fewer actions can produce greater results. Trust that rest and reflection are not weaknesses, but components of effectiveness. As you begin making strategic choices, work starts to feel lighter without becoming smaller. You see results sooner. You waste less effort. You recover faster. The pressure to constantly push fades because progress becomes visible. This chapter is about reclaiming authority over how effort is used. Long hours are easy to add and hard to sustain. Strategic choices are harder to make and easier to maintain. One drains you slowly, the other builds you steadily. When strategy leads, hours serve purpose instead of replacing it. And when purpose directs effort, progress stops depending on how long you work and starts depending on how well you choose. Chapter 9. Building results that grow without burning out. Burnout is often misunderstood as a problem of effort. People assume it comes from working too much, pushing too hard, or caring too deeply. But burnout is rarely caused by effort alone. It is caused by effort that does not lead anywhere meaningful. When results do not grow in proportion to energy spent, exhaustion becomes inevitable. Building results that grow without burning out requires a different relationship with work. Instead of asking how much you can endure, you begin asking how growth can sustain itself. Sustainable results are not built through constant pressure. They are built through alignment, pacing, and systems that allow progress to continue without draining you. Burnout begins when every gain requires the same level of intensity. You solve one problem, and another appears immediately. You finish one task and 10 more replace it. Nothing compounds. Nothing becomes easier. This is a sign that effort is being consumed instead of invested. Growth without burnout depends on compounding. Compounding happens when today's effort reduces tomorrow's workload. Systems replace repetition. Skills reduce friction. Clarity removes unnecessary decisions. When effort compounds, progress accelerates while strain decreases. Many people never reach this stage because they remain trapped in maintenance mode. They spend most of their energy keeping things running instead of building things that run on their own. Maintenance feels responsible, but it offers no relief. Building feels risky, but it creates freedom. Another key factor is pacing. Burnout often comes from ignoring natural limits. People push at the same intensity regardless of context, energy, or season. Sustainable growth respects cycles. It understands that intensity must be balanced with recovery. Recovery is not a break from progress. It is what allows progress to continue. Results that grow without burning out are built on consistency, not urgency. Urgency demands constant reaction. Consistency allows gradual improvement. When you work consistently on the right things, results accumulate quietly. You avoid dramatic swings in energy because progress no longer depends on extreme effort. Clarity also plays a critical role. When goals are vague, effort spreads thin. You work harder to compensate for confusion. When goals are clear, effort concentrates naturally. You know what matters and what does not. This clarity protects energy and sharpens focus. Another source of burnout is misaligned success metrics. When success is defined by volume, hours worked, tasks completed, pressure endured, you push endlessly. When success is defined by outcomes, what improved, what moved forward, what became easier, behavior changes. You begin optimizing for effectiveness instead of endurance. Building sustainable results also requires boundaries. Boundaries prevent effort from leaking into everything. They protect time, energy, and attention. Without boundaries, work expands endlessly. With boundaries, work becomes intentional. Boundaries are not limitations. They are design choices. Burnout also thrives in isolation. When progress depends entirely on you, pressure builds quickly. Sustainable growth often involves delegation, automation, or simplification. You remove yourself from tasks that do not require your unique contribution. This creates capacity without reducing impact. As results begin to grow sustainably, work feels different. You are still engaged, but not depleted. Challenges still exist, but they feel manageable. Progress becomes visible not because you are pushing harder, but because effort is finally aligned. This approach requires patience. Compounding takes time. Early stages may feel slower than hustle, but over time, the gap widens. While others exhaust themselves maintaining momentum, you build systems that carry it forward. Burnout is not a badge of honor. It is a signal. It tells you that the way you are working is not designed to last. Listening to that signal is not weakness, it is wisdom. Building results that grow without burning out is about respecting your limits while expanding your impact. It is about choosing methods that sustain you instead of consuming you. When growth becomes sustainable, effort stops feeling heavy and starts feeling purposeful. This chapter invites you to stop sacrificing yourself for short-term gains and start designing progress that lasts. Because the most meaningful results are not the ones you reach by force, but the ones you build in a way you can live with. Chapter 10D. Designing a life where smart work wins every time. Designing a life where smart work wins is not about mastering productivity techniques or finding the perfect formula. It is about making a quiet decision, one that changes how you relate to effort, time, and yourself. It is the decision to stop measuring your worth by exhaustion and start measuring your progress by alignment. By the time you reach this point, something fundamental has shifted. You no longer see hard work as something to survive. You see it as something to direct. You understand that effort is valuable only when it is applied with intention. Without that intention, even the strongest discipline becomes a drain. A life designed around smart work begins with ownership. You take responsibility not just for how much you do, but for why you do it. You stop blaming circumstances for stagnation and stop glorifying struggle as proof of commitment. You recognize that struggle without movement is not noble. It is avoidable. Smart work wins when your days are shaped before they begin. Instead of waking up into reaction, you enter the day with clarity. You know what deserves your energy and what does not. This clarity does not eliminate difficulty, but it prevents chaos. Chaos is expensive. Clarity is efficient. Over time, this design creates calm, not because life becomes simple, but because it becomes intentional. You are no longer pulled in every direction. You choose where to engage deeply and where to step back. This choice protects focus, and focus multiplies results. Designing this kind of life also changes how you experience success. Success no longer feels rushed or fragile. It feels grounded. You are not constantly afraid of losing momentum because momentum is built into the structure of your work. Systems support you. Decisions compound. Progress becomes sustainable. Emotionally, this shift is powerful. You stop living in a constant state of urgency. Your mind has room to think. Your energy has room to recover. You begin to feel present in your own life again. Work stops consuming you and starts cooperating with you. Smart work also reshapes identity. You no longer see yourself as someone who must always push harder to stay relevant. You see yourself as someone who can adapt, refine, and choose wisely. This identity is stable. It does not depend on praise or pressure. It is built on self-trust. There will still be moments when effort is required. Smart work does not remove challenge. It contextualizes it. You understand when to push and when to pause. You recognize that rest is not retreat. It is preparation. This balance allows you to move forward without breaking yourself in the process. Designing a life where smart work wins means accepting that not everything deserves your attention. Some paths must be closed for others to open. Some habits must be released for clarity to grow. This letting go is not loss, it is design. As this design takes shape, work becomes lighter. Even when it is demanding, you feel less resistance because you are no longer fighting your own structure. Energy flows toward what matters. Distractions lose their grip. Progress feels earned, not forced. This ending is not about reaching a final destination. It is about establishing a way of living that continues to evolve. Smart work is not a phase. It is a mindset that adapts as your life changes. It allows growth without collapse and ambition without burnout. Designing this life is an act of respect for your time, your energy, and your potential. It is the choice to stop wasting effort and start investing it, to stop chasing productivity and start building meaning. When smart work wins, effort finally feels fair, results reflect intention, and life, instead of feeling like an endless race, begins to feel like something you are consciously creating. That is the true outcome of this journey. Not working less or achieving more, but living in a way where progress feels aligned, sustainable, and deeply your own.